Genetically modified foods often get a bad rap. They are always found to be more controversial and placed into a negative light compared to medical biotechnology. Understandably, the public's main concerns are most often related to uncertainties and possible negative effects of GMOs on human health and the environment. The unknown is scary, and what we don't know, we often reject. So that is why for genetically modified salmon to be widely accepted, it is pivotal to gain the public's trust and confidence, which can be done through public relations, in which effective PR tailors to the consumer's needs, in return aims to create and maintain a positive image of its products. Such examples of PR would be awareness campaigns, up-to-date mass media coverage, and labeling genetically modified foods as a way to increase public confidence in product safety. So in order to enhance the public support, benefits of the product need to be clearly stated and marketed, followed by an assurance of its low risk. This is done to diminish any confusion or unease the public has towards that product. Increased familiarity amongst people is also something any PR should hope to achieve. When people are more familiar with GMOs, they won't fear it as much. Instead, they will be more encouraged by it. However, as Malaysians are highly religious, the essential role of religion in our day-to-day decision-making needs to be taken in account when establishing public relations. For example, for a genetically modified food to be accepted by the Muslims, it must be proven safe to the 5 purposes of Sharia. Overall, there is a collective goal in adopting good PR strategies, and that is to help Malaysians better familiarize themselves with genetically modified salmon and its benefits. Only then it will become more acceptable from their religious perspective, and with better understanding, they are able to make more informed judgments and choices on genetically modified foods. With genetically modified foods making headway in our society today, an increasing amount of questions and concerns are arising. Research on its risks and benefits will occasionally be covered by the media. However, most media coverage have the tendency to focus on bad news, because that is what brings in the clicks. Why? Because of negativity bias. It means that humans are actually more inclined towards negative events, information, or emotion. Additionally, studies have also shown that negative effects is more likely to be perceived as truthful. Since negative information draws greater attention, it also may be seen as having greater validity. So when the media reports one-sidedly on the negative impacts, not only will this be perpetuating misconception, it will also shape people's perception to possess a bad sentiment towards GMOs. Furthermore, what is on the news will definitely spark conversations within the community. Depending on how the media frames GMOs to be, discussions will only highlight certain points of view and disregard focus from other perspectives. Depending on how biased the media may be, it can either be praising or condemning. Staying on the topic of media bias, most often in time, the media industry is incentivized to promote certain major conglomerates by providing them with a bigger news slot while overlooking smaller companies. Last but not least, as the media has limited understanding or knowledge on biotechnology, they might spread misinformation or skew facts as they do not consult professionals. And the sad part is, due to herd mentality, most of it is believed and accepted as truth by the public. There are a few essential roles of mass media in the government. First, mass media helps people understand the operations of the government. In the past, there was a high coverage on biotechnological issues in the Malay newspapers. It was evident back then that the publishers were supportive of the government initiative to further develop the biotechnology industry in Malaysia, as the majority of the shareholders of these companies belonged to people who were aligned with the ruling coalition at that time. However, efforts to get the public engaged in biotechnological issues ultimately failed, as the newspaper merely reported news stories, yet there was no room for public debate. Nonetheless, media can still convey significant information about the operations of the government for the consumption of the public, and with an end view of transparency and good governance. Second, mass media participates in political decisions. Although I believe that media organizations should always maintain impartiality in most political and governmental issues, there will always be a point where media should take a strong stance. thereby manifesting its concern for the public. For example, if there is widespread and loud discourse against a biotechnological product circulating in the media, the government would no longer take a blind eye and open up an investigation. Vice versa, when the government approves the product, naturally this will build trust and confidence within the people towards that said product. Having said that, we must not forget that the media can still be used as an ideological apparatus. Media can still be manipulated by government or interest groups to favor their cause or push their agendas. Did you know that genetically modified salmon is sometimes dubbed as Frankenfish? Just like Frankenstein's monster, it seems to disseminate a negative narrative that this fish is something that goes against nature, created by a mad scientist. So before we are able to convince the public to accept GMOs, we need to clear any misconceptions or misunderstanding that they might have. This is where mass media comes into play. Now with everything readily accessible at the tip of our fingers, industries involved should elicit responses from the public by setting up forums or constantly interacting with the consumers through social media. This is also good PR by promoting transparency between the customers and suppliers. Once the people have a voice, only then we are able to discern the root of their concerns and tackle it. On a broader scale, the media has a massive responsibility in providing factual coverage that does not perpetuate myths or stereotypes, encourage generalizations, or spread misinformation. So in order to educate the masses, it would be greatly appreciated if newspaper companies assign a section of balanced, unbiased reports on biotechnological issues and or advancements in their daily news. They should recruit a professional to proofread their excerpt before publishing it to the public, or even source it straight from the scientists and researchers working on the projects. Scientists being perceived as trustworthy by the public can play a prominent role in supplying accurate and reliable information to the media in Malaysia. Besides that, mass media should always take note of the public's concerns and opinions and relay that information to the government, either by talking about it in talk shows, radios, or social media. Be the voice of the people, so that the government won't ignore it. No matter what, we must remember, mass media is still a double-edged sword. The same way it can be used to inform the populace, it can be abused to spread misinformation and push biased agendas. It will be favorable to both the country and its people if the people themselves are well informed intellectually and possess some knowledge on biotechnological issues. Those are more accepting towards it. Not only will this push the country forward to develop their biotechnological field and draw in international investors, thus improving the economy, but also refining the life quality of the common people.